Gentlemen, good morning. I'm so pleased that so many of you would come out this morning and as if you had anywhere else to go. I'm excited this week. I actually have to get a birthday card, so it will be a trip to the dollar store, and that's a major event during the lockdown. I hope this is over very soon. So I created this about the niche because I don't believe that realtors themselves should be generalists. And the public has to know that there are people out there specializing. And when the public does find out that that happens, then what happens is you become a funnel and the business starts to come to you. Now, please understand as I start this today, being a niche player does not mean that I love this. I can move myself around the anywhere on the screen. Being a niche player does not mean that it's automatically you're going to get all this business. You've got to work hard, and you've got to work hard to build the niche. But once you build the niche, the business will happen. So with that, I love being here in Barrie. I'm so sorry that it's virtual. I actually, like I say, I told a little Barrie story. I'm very fond of Barrie as an ex-boater, of course. Barrie was a place I was in all the time, and as a former real estate appraiser, basically it was just another town, city that I spent a lot of time in. So I like Barrie. So myself, I am a niche realtor. I'm not a generalist. I don't appeal to everybody. I move mom and dad. I deal with seniors downsizing. And bluntly, I love hoarders. I love hoarder situations because so many agents throw their hands up and don't know what to do. And from chaos, I see order, and also I see something else. And I'm going to say this right up front. I don't want to talk about the word, but I'll throw it out. We can't set commissions, but I'll say this to you: generalists have to compete on, they have to compete. And that is, how do you compete with the 1% person and or mirror posting? And as a specialist, as a niche player, our commissions aren't cut. It's that simple. You just don't cut commissions. So this is a niche. Now look at this carefully. I know it sounds silly. It's trite. There's a niche in a wall. But here's what I want you to focus on. You are that niche. The rest of the wall are all the other realtors around you. What is the most attractive and focal point of the wall? The niche. And that would be you in there. So let's look at this a niche itself. If I give this in the States, of course, I'll have to say niche, which I just can't bring myself to do. So where I'm going now, let's take a supposition that you want to advertise in a particular magazine, because that appeals to a lot of people that you want to target. But the unfortunate part is that magazine, and by the way, there is nothing wrong in today, in 2020, with print media for certain ways of marketing. Leaving that alone, I want to hit seniors. I am not going into the Zoomer magazine because I don't need all my money wasted that it goes from Nova Scotia all the way to Vancouver Island. That's wasted to me. I want to target Southern GTA, Toronto oriented markets. So I can, by being a niche player in certain fields, and I'll get into it and delve deeper, I will show you how we can get there, and you can take your marketing and make it count. You also hit a smaller segment of the population. So this is what we're doing now as general realtors. It's like walking down a street and going up to every single person and going, you want to buy a house? You want to sell a house? You want to buy a house? You want to sell a house? Oh, you want to lease a house? Okay, I can handle that too. No, this drives to only the people that want to work in your niche. You work with the people that will use your service. And sometimes a niche doesn't even exist. I'm creating a niche now to do certain things. I mean, I deal with a lot of estates. People don't realize that there's realtors that work with estates exclusively, not just list them and sell them. I'm talking about going in, getting everything appraised, helping the families move all the sentimental stuff, get downsizing, moving, cleaning, renovating, dealing with the lawyers, dealing with all kinds of legal issues that not that we as realtors deal with legal issues, but we understand them and can direct them to the right professional. So that's part of it. The other thing is, too many of deals are out there being done by agents who are generalists, leaving people high and dry. We can handle everything. We satisfy. With a niche marketing, you become the big fish in a small pond. And it's called micro marketing. Now, I want you to stop and think yourself, who in your area where you are sells luxury waterfront? Who in your area works with a builder to build custom homes? Who in your area sells high-end condos? Who in your area sells horse farms? Who in your area sells marinas? Do you know how specific niches are? Before the government stepped in and changed it, I knew a realtor whose only focus was selling daycare centers. That's all she did. She sold daycare centers. I knew of another realtor that sold only, retirement homes, with beds, the converted stuff in small towns. That's all she sold. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. A lot of you know who I am and everything else. This will be in August. I'll start my 54th year in real estate. I've done an awful lot of stuff since 1968, and I won't go through all this crap and everything else. Sold the first condo and everything else. But the thing is, when I teach, I don't teach about how it used to be. I am an active realtor. I'm on the streets. I win awards, which I want to stop. I have told my broker I don't need any more awards, but if the award costs him $40 or $50, would he dispense with the award and just send me the $40 or $50? Because awards I don't need, but I'll take the $50. That's more important to me. And with that said, now let me just try. I hope I've got control here. I don't see the feature I'm looking for, which is Zoom. Shoot. I was just looking here for this, and I don't see it for a minute. If I have the Zoom feature here, I hate when people flounder around when they're dealing with PowerPoint. Okay, so here's what we've got. You'll have to bear with me here. I seem to be missing this Zoom feature here today. So here's from homes.com. It's a website and everything else. They're trying to tell you it's American. Look what we do. We knock doors. Now, does that mean you actually go out and knock doors? Hey, there are people on this call right now, on this Zoom with us this morning, that actually do knock doors. And I have some friends of mine who are tremendous. Even during COVID, they're knocking doors. I don't quite agree. Direct mail. I was teaching a class last year or the year before, and I was in charge of an estate, and I had the keys for the mailbox. Although they had diverted all the mail, the first-class mail, all the, quote, junk mail was accumulating. So every time I was down at the property, I would take out all the mail and go through the junk mail and throw it out. I started to accumulate all the real estate mail that came in, direct mail. And I came into the classroom. This would have been January, February of last year. And I spread it out on a table and I said, I want you to look at these pieces of literature from these agents. The worst piece of mail here is still an excellent piece of mail. If you went from rated them from the lowest to the highest, the lowest one was still done professionally, looked good, but they were all saying the same thing. One stood out. The one that stood out was actually giving them market data about current sales within where they live, and that's what people want. We know about social media. Expired listings are a little difficult for us in Canada. For sale by owner, it's not something I've been successful with. I know people that thrive on it. And referrals. Now, I want to stop right here. If you look at number 6 on this list, which is a traditional list, if you are in a niche market, you will find that it all goes up to the top. Referrals becomes number 1 and becomes about 70, 80% of all your business. I only have done in the last 8 years, 2 cold calls have come to me. The rest of them have been all referrals from different sources, but I don't work with the public per se because of the niche. Past clients, that's the one trouble dealing with the states. People can only die once. And you don't actually solicit them. And if your families are in other countries of the world and they inherited a property in Canada, well, there's no sphere of influence. You can also go and there's lenders and all kinds of stuff. So these are the main things. So let's look at this. This is B2B, which is business to business lead generation. I love this gauge because when you're talking about a niche, you're going to have to do face-to-face with people and what to do. Do you notice what's almost at the very top? Executive events. I'd like to take out the word executive and only go events. If you're going to be a niche player, you're going to have to go to where those people are that are within that niche, be it the cottage show that comes up, be it the Builders Association trade show, be it, and I'll get into what I'm going to do as a case study as we go. So we go through all this. Telemarketing is not really for us. There's problems with RICO and what the rules are and everything else. I guess we could telemarket if every one of the people that were making the phone calls were licensed real estate agents, but mind you, the way things are going for some of them, they probably are. Trade shows, company websites, we go down, 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 and where we are. And where do we go as realtors, as generalists? We use Facebook and Google and stuff as our top instead of the other way. We're topsy-turvy here, and we're doing everything the same as everybody else. Niche helps you attract the clients, and I please emphasize this. Look at this word, the clients you want to attract. With me, the majority of my clients are lawyers. I get the lawyers. Why? Because if one lawyer sends me 4 or 5 deals a year, and I multiply that by so many lawyers, and if a lawyer's got a longevity of, if a lawyer's in his 40s or she's in her 50s, they still got 25, 30 years ahead of them. I don't, but they do. And there's a lot of referral business coming out of that. The public, you can only sell once and hope to get a referral from somebody in their sphere of influence. But with dealing with professionals and other people, it comes to you. You want to become this lead generation. I'm building to where the niche is going, how it's going to work. And I'm going to show you in a minute or two a case study that we're going to go through of how to delve into a niche, okay? This is difference between sales pipeline and a funnel. Let's look at this. When you look at a sales, this is your sales. Some of your work comes from past clients. Some of your work comes from your website and your cold. Some of it comes from your advertising. Some of it's from just banging into people, et cetera, et cetera. In a funnel, it comes down to all of it goes in and it keeps coming down to you. You're not chasing it. It's filtering into you. And guess what? A good percentage of niche players, a good percentage of their business comes from other realtors. Oh, you want to sell a marina? You've got to call Jane Smith. She specializes in marinas. I don't handle marinas. They're specialized. Or you want to do a chicken farm? Oh, I just know there's a lot of quota involved in chicken farms and there's government regulations and all this stuff. I don't know enough about it. So I think you should call Joe Price, and that's what you do. And be specific. Here's something else. It's not enough to say I sell luxury cottages. No, it has to be I sell some of the finest upscale country retreats on the shores of glorious Georgian Bay. I read some of the real estate descriptions out there, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I have trouble, like my gag reflex almost kicks in. I go, who writes like that? But people love it. They eat it up, folks. They eat it up. Now, I want you to meet my friend Jeff Kerr. It's interesting. He lives down the street from my son. Jeff and I have become good friends over the years. We belong to something called the Master Accredited Senior Agent. Jeffrey, look at this name here. Jeff Kerr, barrier-free real estate specialist. Jeffrey is probably one of the only two realtors that I'm aware of in Ontario, and probably almost one of the few in Canada that does what he does. And you're going to say, what does Jeffrey do that's so unique? I think it's quite funny that he's a unique realtor and works at RE/MAX Unique. I always thought that was kind of a fun play on words. Jeffrey is involved with people who are looking for accessible homes. He is looking, his clientele are people in wheelchairs, people that are disabled, and he gets a lot of his business from the insurance companies and lawyers, and business comes to Jeffrey. I had a listing with an elevator in the house in a bungalow. I had a bungalow with an elevator because the father had developed MS. They put an elevator into the house. And the first call I made as I took the listing was I phoned Jeffrey. I said, Jeff, I need your help. And we were hoping to find, we almost sold it to a couple who had a daughter who was, as birth, has been confined to a wheelchair her entire life, this poor young girl. And but in the end, we sold it to a couple who were bringing their parents over from Hong Kong, and the parents were in wheelchairs. So this is what Jeffrey does, and he's the only one I know that does it. Here I am talking about him. He also builds some new houses that are barrier-free. This is a fascinating thing, and he's been doing this. Jeffrey's a young man, and he's been doing this for quite a few years. So here's the elements of a niche. You have minimum competition. Jeffrey has almost nobody in Canada. I think he's got one other person that competes with him. There's a huge demand. It's satisfying. Believe me, being in a niche actually is very satisfying. The profit potential is great. The more work you do, you raise your commission. How would you like to walk in to do a listing presentation and say, Mr. and Mrs. Price, not only are we going to talk about my marketing for you, we're going to talk about two other things. Up front, I'm going to talk about the commission. And by the way, you're going to tell me what commission you want to pay me. And we're going to talk about the price which you're going to help set. Do you agree with that? Are you okay with that? They look at you like, what? I'm helping set the commission. But you see, when you've got a niche, you could do this stuff because you have different plans. If you want me to do this much work, here's my commission. You want me to do this much work, there's my commission. You want me to do this much more work, that's my commission again. And you can raise your commissions. And you solve a need in the market. Let's go back to Jeff. Jeff saw all these disabled people, and he realized that they were floundering out there because realtors were looking on MLS for disabled. Jeff knows where these houses are. He knows when they're coming up. He's got lists. People list with him. He's got these houses, and then he's got a backlog. And he can phone someone and say, you were looking for a bungalow in the Willow area or the Birch area or whatever. I found it for you. And that's what he does. He's very successful. He's also written books on it. When I was a young guy and we were doing mortgage financing, I found that I couldn't compete. I had a real estate brokerage and a mortgage brokerage. And we couldn't compete with the average mortgage broker because they were charging such little fees. So what did I do? I went into the interim financing field, and we became ultra successful in that. We'd find the smaller builders and say, who's lending you your money to build? And we'd give them their interim financing. And it grew. It became a very, very large business. And I sold it eventually and went back to selling real estate. Um, my niches, God, I love this little, isn't this a cool sort of, I don't know what graphic this is, but it's kind of cool. Anyways, my own niches, I deal with seniors. By the way, I was doing a course, the seniors course, with one of my seniors courses for one of the boards. They said, you can't use this sign, it's offensive. I go, what? This is an actual sign. What do you mean it's offensive? I mean, oh, committees. I love committees. I love estates. Estates are, I think I like estates more than anything because families are in turmoil. They don't know what to do. They walk in, they open the door of the mom or Aunt Sally's place, and they just stand there with their eyes open like deer in the headlight, and they don't have a clue of the first thing they're going to do. And I just walk in and go, hey, relax, let's make this easy. Let's work it through. Let's get it done. I also actually thrive on families who are in war. And the reason is out of chaos comes order. The property has to be sold. Somebody has to clean this up and put the emotions aside and work on it. I find it quite, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's challenging. But the best part is I don't have to cut my commission to do that. And I do stigma and, of course, agency. Now, I've shown this, some of you have taken other seminars of mine. You know I like to use this. I use this in almost every seminar I do. It's about you seeing who you are. And you have to see where you are in real estate. You're unknown. Unfortunately, that unknown and commodity seem to go together. The minute you pick up the phone or call or speak to anybody, the first thing they said is, how much do you charge? And I don't allow that to happen at all. That's not part of what I sell. That's not what I do. The unfortunate, I've known people who have been in real estate 10 and 15 years, and they're still unknown. The next level the next level of getting up there is to become a secret agent expert. The secret expert or secret agent is that you are really highly regarded. Let's take the example, and I use the word price a lot. You're with the Price family. You've sold Aunt Matilda years ago when she was a younger woman. And over the years, Aunt Matilda's told the family, oh, you've got to use you. You've got to use, what do you call it? This agent because they're our friends. And over the years, you've got really in there. You've been to their family barbecues. You even made it to a wedding or two. And you're ingrained. You are their expert. But what happens, folks? Eventually, somebody doesn't want to use you. Somebody's not happy. Somebody in the family gets a real estate license. The younger generation turns around and says, well, that's good for you, but I got friends that are realtors, and you lose that. So the thing is that in every area, I don't care what profession or whatever, you've got to become a go-to expert. And the only way to be a niche player is to be a go-to expert. That's where the money is. This is what economists are telling us. I find agents, if I see one more post, where do you think the market's going in 2021? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the market goes up, down, sideways, around the bend, or whatever. People will buy and sell real estate. Our only thing is to get our share of what is happening. That's it. That's it. We're not, pardon me, we're not party to this market. If prices go up or down, unless you're an investor, as a real estate agent, a pure real estate agent, you are a commission agent, you're a broker. That's it. So I get so tired of this. I really do. It actually bothers me. So let's delve into niches now. Condos, we know. Now let's stop at condos for a second. What type of condos? Waterfront condos, high-rise condos, townhouse condos, condos that are accessible, condos that are luxury. Do you see where I'm going? You've got to narrow. You can get too narrow, by the way. You get so narrow, there's only 3 people in the country that will use your service. First-time buyers, that could be your specialty. Certain ethnics, athletes, well, we don't have that as much in some areas. I do know 2 agents in Toronto that do work with a couple of the teams. Elite properties, nursing homes, farms, and that varies. Ranches, recreational, waterfront, car. I'm going to read it. I'm not a reader. There are agents out there selling gas stations, specializing in gas stations and bigger nursing homes. Um, I know of a real estate brokerage, they only do dental practices. They buy, sell, and appraise dental practices. There's somebody else does medical, fast food, restaurant. Now, fast food and restaurants, right now we're hit because of COVID. Now, what do you do with fast food and restaurant? You can sell the franchises, you can sell the restaurants, or you can also do the leasing. For those of you that have done leasing, you know that leasing can be very lucrative in a commercial field. Motels, hotels, ski resorts, brownfields. I met two agents. They work with contaminated properties, the brownfields and brownfield developments, and they seek them out, and they have made a ton. I mean, a ton of money, and they've become experts in that particular. I'd say they be particular in that field, but it's a very bad pun. Neighborhoods, women buyers, police, firemen, military, like it goes on and on. A lot of my friends in Kingston area, Trenton, Quincy, and of course up in Ottawa, they do a lot of military transfers. Funeral homes, there are people sell funeral homes, yes. Student housing, very big in communities where there are agents out there selling across Ontario, wherever there's a university. They were, I mean, COVID's changed a lot of stuff. I'm not talking about at this moment COVID. COVID pandemic will pass. It's going to take a while to come back and rise from the ashes, but it will pass. Tear downs, infills, golf courses, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Out of the country, Gladys Lippe, I know, who's with Remax, I think Hallmark. She's brings people to Costa Rica. The gay market. Oh yeah, is this one interesting? My dad, I tell a quick story here. My father was 80, and dad says to his friend who had just sold the hotel in Las Vegas, he says, I want you to buy this hotel in Orlando that went bankrupt. It was a Days Inn. And I'm going to get you 85 to 90% occupancy. And it was a big hotel. And the guy looks at my father like my father's out of his mind. He says to my father, Sid, are you crazy? How can Days Inn went bankrupt? How can we buy and have 80, 85%? He says, tie it up with a deposit, get this tied up, and get conditions that you can walk from, and I'll show you how to do it. As soon as they got the deal signed, then my father called the meeting. I was there, and he said, here's what we're going to do. As of now, this is a gay destination hotel. Everybody in the room looked at each other and went, what? They're the largest mobile disposable income. They spend a lot of money on travel. And you know what? The hotel thrived. Unfortunately, some stuff happened later on with development, and it wasn't anybody's fault except the American economy and the lenders. This is the true story. The mortgage lenders went bankrupt. It was a mess. Anyways, mortgage arrears, you can deal with powers of sale. There's one or two agents around to get nothing but listings on the grow-ups from the banks that are taking them over. Other people are selling churches and mosques and everything else. What can you add to this? And if anybody wants to add to this, let me know. So the niche agent, this is an actual website out there that you can find out more about niches. I put this on there because there's an arrow here. If you look, it says 101 real estate niche markets. It's a download ebook. I'm leaving this up for about a couple of seconds here. Just write down the niche market. Go on and get that book if you're interested in going into a niche, because they'll send it to you as a free download. I'm offering something free, which isn't mine to offer anyways, but it's free. I'm moving on. Okay, I'm just warning, I'm moving on. Now, the niche. Oh, I love this. You have to look at what is your passion. For me, I would say that truthfully, if I left Toronto, I'm a boater. I love boats. I'd love to be working something to do with boating and marinas and all that stuff. That would really turn me on. But I can't leave the city. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a case study on the agent that wants to get into the horse farm business. They love horses. They just love horses. So what have we got here? We've got a traditional horse farm and we've got an equestrian center. When I ran my appraisal firm, my partner, Lois Hicks, she seemed to get a huge amount of equestrian centers to appraise. I've never appraised one. I'd appraised farms, but never equestrian center. She was getting a lot of her business from a couple of places that lent the money to build equestrian centers. So what do we know about people that have equestrian centers? Most of them, even if they're not wealthy, they are with a wealthy elite of people. You're stepping up in the world. So let's look at an industry. We're going to go back to the horses in a minute. You as an agent love horses. It's your passion. Find your passion. You've got to start studying. You got to go in and study the industry. You've got to go into market. You've got to look at what the government stats are. If I'm looking at horses, how many acres do you need per horse? What are the licensing restrictions? What can you do? What kind of trade restrictions are there? Do you know that in Kentucky, Florida, and all, anyways, there's 460,000 horse farms in the US of A. I found that out, but I'm guessing in Canada, there's about 10%. What are you going to name your brokerage? Oh, I got a question mark there. Are you going to be exclusive or will you still handle general brokerage? What events can you go to? What advertising? And how are you going to get your first listing? So let's look at this. There's a website that's almost an MLS service for horse farms across Canada, United States. United States and Canada, United States dominates. See this, world's largest equestrian real estate website, founded in 2005. And you can look, here's Essex County, Wellington County, where I'm from originally. And they're in here. Look at the prices, folks. 3,800,000. That's a pretty good day's income to sell that property. 1,094,000 in Essex, almost 1,200,000 here in Ottawa. I mean, we're talking good numbers here. Is it worth it? Yeah, you're gonna put a lot of miles on your car, by the way, kilometers. And here's a horse farm that's in Essex County. This real estate agent here, this Rachel Tupling, Jump Realty Brokerage. I think Jump's a pretty good name. They're down to Tecumseh, which is close to Windsor. And she goes on and has this, and she works with, I've seen other listings of hers when I was delving into this, and I was quite impressed. So this is what she's doing. Every sale is $1 million and up. So they can afford to do certain promotion. And some of the writing here is really good. It's hard for you. Now, is there any, where you are, this is, by the way, whoops, I'm sorry, Moffett Dunlop. Moffett Dunlop is, I knew Moffett for years. I was doing a lot of the appraisals. Moffett was the #1, pretty well, person that was doing horse farms, mostly in the Caledon up to Georgian Bay and everything else. And if you said, let's find an agent that sells horse farms, Moffett was almost the first name in Ontario that came to be. Moffett's now second generation and the firm's changed, but he, for his heyday, was the dominant person. So the next thing I'm going to do, if I'm going to get into a niche market, is I'm going to read everything about it and look for every magazine there is. By the way, this picture on this horse magazine, to me, is absolutely magnificent picture, just magnificent. I just was blown away by the picture. So we've got Horse Illustrated. You know, you've got the 1, 2, 3 big publications, and there's all kinds of local. Now, here is the question. What type of horses? Let's get into this. We have show horses. the equestrian. We have rodeo. I grew up in Arthur, Ontario, with a lot of Mennonites. We've got work horses. We got race horses. So it's not enough you're going into a niche, because the people that are dealing with the equestrian are not going to be selling work horses, for pulling buggies. I mean, later on, maybe they will, or they're just going to broker them somewhere else. So that type of thing, you have to see which part of the niche. Horses is not enough. What part of the horse business are you going after? For me, race horses and equestrian would be the number one, number two. Why? Because I'm dealing with rich people. I'm dealing with rich people. So every sale becomes a well-to-do sale. I'll tell you something about dealing, anybody on this call right now, on this Zoom right now, that's listening in or watching, I'll say this to you. One thing about dealing with wealthy people, they don't do it. If they see it, they buy it. They make decisions quickly. It's what they do in their work life, in their professional life. They see it, they buy it. There's exceptions, of course. Now you have to drill right down, because there is a difference between a category and a defined niche. Horses is a category. Equestrian farms and race farms is a niche. I'm like, okay, you with me? So this was a quote I found. I pledge to become the world's greatest expert in a field I know nothing about. When I looked at the senior market, I knew nothing about the senior market to speak of. I just knew there were people were seniors and that was it. And I had no idea what they thought, what their habits were, what their buying and selling of real estate was. And I spent a year digging into that market before I made a move. And it was a very intense year. I didn't make a lot of money that year because I was so worked on the niche, finding the answers. You can become an expert in any field. What an age we live in. You're in the age of Google. You're in the age of Yahoo. You're in the age of all kinds of search engines. You've got so much at your fingertips. You don't have to get up and drive over to the library and start digging and only find out they're limited as well. You've got a huge amount. And then you've got all the YouTubes and everything else. It's unbelievable. If you're going to get into a niche, ladies and gentlemen, the first rule is you've got to go back to school. You've got to learn everything about that particular product. So this gentleman is studying, he's on Google, he's being very intense. These people are in some seminar. We'll go back to the horses. They're going out and they're learning. The government has changed certain regulations about the farms. We're on the green belts, we're this, we're that, and they're learning something. They're at some seminar. You've got to be there. By the way, the worst thing that can happen is you bump into somebody there over coffee, you start talking, and you're doing business. You've got to work hard now, study, and enjoy your life later. So here's something else that you've got to do. I don't care if it's horses, I don't care if it's marinas, I don't care if it's funeral homes. And I think that what you've got to do is you've got to go to events. You have to physically go to events. If you're going to be in the horse business, you're going to have to go to Louisville, Kentucky, which is a fabulous place to be, by the way. And with that, you've got to start talking and being around horse people. Ladies and gentlemen, the business will come because you're going to be with these people. You're going to see them. You're going to become part of their culture. And that culture will be ingrained in you, and you will be one of the realtors. And they will know that when you're working in Ontario, Southern Ontario, that you're the agent to call for this. And it's the same with the boating crowd. It's the same with, you name a business, you've got to go to the events. And eventually you've got to start sponsoring at the events. And you got to start advertising and promoting. And you've also got to test the water. You've got to test the water and you're not jumping in, you're not stopping what you're doing right now and stopping every aspect of real estate that you're doing to get into the niche, but you start slow. You start with maybe You try to get your first listing in it. You try to promote. You see where you make your mistakes. You analyze and you go slow. So what do you do with your new knowledge? You spend, let's say you spend the next year really trying to perfect your niche. I'll give you a year. I'll give you a year. It's going to take you that long. Because while you're learning and studying and absorbing and driving your family crazy with all these interesting facts, wow, do you know how much manure the average horse makes every year? They're going to be tired of your manure. What you've got to do is you've got to take your skills and start to progress with them. Eventually, if you're good at what you do, you'll be asked to be on a panel. You'll be asked to be on a panel by default. My friend Jeff Kerr, because of disability, oh my goodness, he's called on panels constantly. I'm called on for all kinds of different things, and you get called on the panels. Then you start going to little coffee clutches, and you'll go to women's group. I'll tell you this about a women's group. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I was asked by a women's group that they get together and they like interesting topics. And one of them said, we don't know what a real estate appraiser does. And we'd like to know what a real estate appraiser does exactly, and blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, how many people? 9. I go, I'm coming out to do 9 people for, I don't even drink coffee. You know, they're going to give me water and maybe a cookie. I said, you know what? It's a charity event. It's charity people, lovely people. Who knows that? Maybe I'll know somebody's husband. One of the 9 women had inherited a ton. She has become, over the years, to my former firm, Lebow Hicks, she has become a $250,000 client because I met her at that coffee clutch. It's not the first time I picked up business from a small, small crowd. I had a real estate agent one day. We were talking about doing events for clients, and he complained because he only had, 3 people show up to a first buyer event. He did a speaking thing of first buyer, did a home inspector, a mortgage broker. 3 people from the public showed up. I said, well, what was the outcome? He says, oh, I sold 1 house. I looked at him like he was crazy. I said, so if 35 people would have come and you would have sold 1 house, would that have made it more successful? Like, he sold a house out of 3 people. That's amazing. I think that's pretty damn good. I don't know where he's coming from. You also start publishing all over YouTube and all over the internet. And the next thing you know, you become a speaker. And when you become a speaker, you get more credibility. Now, I'll say this, it's a lot nicer when you out there today and you speak than when I started speaking, because they can put the camera on you. You end up not selling yourself. You sell yourself over and over and over again because it goes to YouTube. And that's really important. You've got to be out there. You've got to be in the media. You'll be interviewed if you're good at what you do. If you're into a specialized niche, you should let every time there's an article in a paper or on television or you hear a radio show, and you should let that reporter know this is what you do. And if you ever need any information, call me. I actually have at the bottom of my email address, it says media source. Reporters call me. I don't always get press, but I limit it. I give away a lot of information. And Barry, is this the way? And I go, yes, that's the right. Realtor has to be capitalized. Yes, and blah, blah, blah. Then that's it. But you become their go-to person. This was because of what we do with seniors and the downsizing. CBC came to me and they did a whole thing about helping a senior move out of their house. My transition manager was in there. And it was a really great shooting. How much credibility is that? I have it on my website now. The CBC, being on CBC, it helps. And you can write articles. By the way, I want to stop here about this article. I don't know the articles that I've written. I'm going to be blunt. 99% of my articles, I write them. I'm stopping. I'm going to, when I put together the Accredited Senior Agent Program, I didn't have time. I hired a former writer with McLean Hunter for $150 an article. I had them write articles for me about the senior field. I'm now doing the same thing. I'm going back. Let me ask you a question. Let me stop for a minute. If you can get a full page in a magazine or any publication, how much would you pay to have a full page in a good publication? 1,000, 2,000, $3,000. You know that they're going to charge you $2,000 to $3,000 if you had to place an ad that size. I pay a writer, I'm going to pay a professional writer $100, $150 to write an article, and that article is going to be a full page. Ladies and gentlemen, I just bought myself a full page for like 150, even if I have to go to $200. I am now banking a series of articles because bluntly, I've run out of time to write all the articles I want to write. I'm giving them the ideas, you write the articles. Where do I find the writers? You go to guru.com, Guru. You go on Fiverr. Fiverr is FIVERR.ca. You can get, because I want Canadian perspective. And you get them to write, and they will. Okay, so that's what I'm saying to you. I also wrote these 2 books that are free downloads. I have this book right now, A Guide to Selling an Estate Property. That is, I'm getting a hit a day on one very small website called AdWorks, and it's only in one neighborhood. I've now got 60 something hits in just over 50 something days, which isn't bad. And I've had X number of clicks on my website because of it. The matrimonial home, I'm not pushing too much. I wrote a guide on divorces. To be blunt, divorces are too much of a pain in the butt sometimes. I like them, I don't mind them, but emotionally they're draining. I'm writing a brand new book right now on hoarder, how to sell a hoarder's house, and we're going to do with that. Here's something else that comes out. If you're going to get in and be a niche player, find the societies that are there that work within, and I'm coming back in a second to horses, and give back and volunteer. I'm going to give you one. There's a couple of places around Ontario, throughout Ontario, for disabled people to learn how to ride or be on horseback. Get involved with those charities. If you're getting into the horse business, get involved with those charities, because the more you get involved, don't go in there just to do business. Nothing is worse than seeing, I've sat on boards, and you've sat on boards or worked in associations, a lot of us here have, and you can spot the insurance or the financial planner that comes in, and all they want to do is, here's my card, here's my card. No, you're understated. You're just there. I got business from someone, one family. I was probably 20 years sitting with them working in a volunteer capacity until I got a call to sell their grandfather and the industrial building, quite a large industrial building. And then last few months ago, I sold the family home. So that was all because I was working as a volunteer in something I believed in, not there to get business, but get involved in your industry. Niche players have business come to them. Okay, let's stop right here. You have the lawyer that's online right now looking for someone who specializes. The lawyer's got an estate, the lawyer's got a power of sale, the lawyer's got a problem, and they need an agent who deals with a specific type of property or real estate situation. And that lawyer right now is online fishing to find somebody. We've got this lady, the accountant, doing exactly the same thing. And we've got the court saying to someone, it could be a divorce, and it could be 2 partners splitting up a business. It could be a corporate divorce. And the judge is saying, I'm ordering, who's a specialist in horse farms? Well, Mr. Price is. Well, then I'm ordering, is anybody here got any objections to Mr. Price? No, he's well regarded, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm ordering Mr. Price to get the listing on this property. You notice she didn't say I ordered Mr. Price to take the listing and cut his commission. She said, I'm ordering. It is nothing than great when you get a court order that you sell property. I've had many. I don't have enough. But where do I market? The lawyer is my largest group. I get 65% of all my business comes from lawyers and some accountants and trustees. I'm actually more and more in touch now with bankruptcy trustees. Bankruptcies are going to soar when the restrictions on COVID are easing and the government stops funding. And when that's over, the bankruptcies will go through the roof. And I'm cultivating bankruptcy lawyers, bankruptcy trustees right now. So that's where my market is. I don't make any bones about it. I have a database of 550 lawyers, and that's who I farm, with a few accountants thrown in. You also, in your field, I was involved in as an appraiser in a couple of horse farms up in Caledon, and the real estate brokers were asked to testify, give reports. They testified, and number one, I want you to look at this. You don't go testify for the 55 or whatever dollars a day that an expert, that a witness gets. You tell a lawyer, I'm sorry, if you want me as just a witness, you got the wrong person. All I'll do is answer yes or no. I won't volunteer anything. If you want me as an expert, hire me as an expert, pay me as an expert. But here's the beauty of it. You then build up your credentials when you're going to get a listing and going, I have testified, I have been accepted by the courts as an expert in horse farms in Caledon. That goes a lot. That's cachet, folks. That's why you do it. Plus you get paid. Okay? Now, I said we're going to do this in an hour. I'm 5 minutes to go, and we're going to do this in an hour. And I'm going to just throw a few things in this year. This is a tumultuous year for most of us. I believe I'm doing a newsletter right now. And if you want to be on my newsletter, if you're not a town agent, not in Toronto, and you want to be on my newsletter, all I do is send out good stuff. And I mean, I think it's good stuff. I get enough accolades from it. And I talk about how to do a vendor take back mortgage and all kinds of stuff. And this time I'm doing about the books that I think every agent has to have. Jeffrey Gittimore, go look him up on YouTube. He's amazing. This one here, Get More Referrals Now. Why am I putting this book up here on the niche? Bill Cates taught me more about getting referrals. If you're going to get into a niche market, you're going to have to live on referrals. Referrals will come to you more than cold advertising and expensive. By the way, expensive advertising, all advertising is expensive. So you look at this, you read this book, and you open your eyes. Now, this is for anybody that sells. There's no question. Bill Cates is slanted more to financial planners than he is to any other profession. And you can also find Bill on YouTube. I will probably get Bill to do a seminar with me in the near future this coming year. Jack Cotton wrote a book called Selling Luxury Homes. Why do I have Jack in here? I have Jack in here because Jack is regarded as one of the top luxury specialists in the United States. If you're going to get into the upper echelons and I come to these equestrian centers and horse farms for racehorses, you're going to deal with an elitist type of people. Jack's book is exceptional. And pardon me, and even if Jack's book, you don't sell, even if you're selling mobile homes, if you're selling a mobile home, Jack's book still has tremendous relevancy to you. It does. This got scrambled. On February the 23rd, I will be doing an interview with Jack Cotton. And I think that if you want to get into a niche, I think you should be on this interview. You'll find it under Ask Barry Lebow on Facebook. Jack Cotton, whoops, I'm jumping. Jack Cotton will teach a lot of you a lot about how to get into the niche. How did he go from not a poor boy, but he was not from a wealthy background. And he's selling some of the wealthiest people in the United States homes, $12, $15 million houses. How did he get into that niche? I mean, this is amazing. So I will send you the link because you don't need the link. You just have to go here to Ask Barry Lebow, which is my Facebook page and my professional page. And on there is the link to get into the Jack Cotton seminar. And that's coming up February 23rd. I said I'm doing this in 1 hour. This is. You also can get stuff on Barry Lebow Invites You To, where I've got the events and all the speakers I've got. We'll be talking a lot about niche stuff. Now, here's reinforcement. By the way, if you don't know, that's a Buick there. Who makes the most money? I can pick up the phone right now. I have an exceptional, I'll call her, my doctor's Dr. Kimberly, and I can call the office and go, I have an ache and I need to see Dr. Kimberly. Barry, I don't know if I can squeeze you in. Look, if I come over and sit in the waiting room, do you think you get me in today? Yeah, yeah, get over. You'll probably get in after lunch. Okay. Now I got an ankle problem. I want to go see Johnny Lai at Toronto Western. I could sit in that waiting room for 3 years to see Johnny. 3 years. So tell me, who makes more money, the specialist or the GP? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be a realtor GP. I just don't want to be it. I want to be the specialist because you do less business, you make more money, you don't cut your commissions. And I've used this many times. You know, I stole this off of Facebook. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. If an egg is broken by an inside force, then life begins. Great things happen from the inside. We've had a very big challenge this last 12 months. A lot of us have had a good year in 2020, but that's because of the way the real estate market's been responding, and we happen to be there with buyers or sellers. It's getting a little harder right now. And with that said, we have to do it from within. We have to recreate ourselves. I'll be 74 this month, and I'm recreating myself because my seniors business has basically, in a way, it's collapsed. I deal with estates, I deal with downside. I don't deal with the active baby boomer who's selling the big house to move to a condo because with COVID, they're not moving. I lost all that business. I had 16 seminars planned for 2016. We had everything booked, and then the rug got pulled. So you have to recreate yourself. If I can do it at my age, you can do it. So thank you.